Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing real good.
It's been crazy, but we made it happen.
Yeah, I bet. I can see you're even in the car now. So
yeah. Trust me, it is crazy.
Where are you on the way to at the moment or coming back from if you're in the car?
Well, I'm on my way to San Francisco. Okay. I have a show tomorrow.
I mean, the travel has got to be just wild for you now. From an outsider's perspective, it seems like it's really kind of taken off super fast.
Yes. No, it is way faster than I expected it to.
How has that been? How are you handling that? Are you loving it? Is it stressful? What does it feel like?
Actually, I absolutely love traveling because that's really all I ever want to do in my life is just travel. It's just anywhere I could go to. So it's fun at the same time. It's also, a bit draining as well because having to go back and forth to the airport, and the airport's crazy. I feel like that's the only downfall of it. But once you get to that place, you're just like, okay, we made it. It was all worth it.
Right. Yeah. The ends justify the means on that
yes,
one.
It definitely does.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, and these days, airports are worse than ever, man. Canceled flights and the prices. It's crazy.
That's why I do not fly United, because United's the worst. They cancel everything.
It's funny. I feel like everybody, do you have a favorite airline? I feel like everybody's got like
Delta.
A favorite. Delta. Yeah, Delta's kind of my favorite too. I don't know. Air travel has always been crazy for this kind of work and this kind of lifestyle. But these days, man, the crunch is on. Like you got to really want to do it at this point.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do. You can't turn back around. You can't.
The travel's going crazy. You're playing all these big shows. And this is all like relatively quickly, right? Like I know you've been DJing and grinding for a long time, but kind of in this lane, in this scene, was it sort of the pandemic time when it really started popping off for you?
Actually after the pandemic, really, I got people knew that I was now a house DJ. So that was basically what I tried to use Twitch was to show people that I can play house. That's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So it kind of helped me step to right after the pandemic was over. I had a few songs out. So I was able to, go out to different promoters, send my stuff. And they would book me because just how I was presenting myself and how eager I was to get there. And so I think from booking those parties, I met my agent, Hamilton. And then from there, it was just a wrap, literally.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And, obviously we said you've been DJing for a long time and you've kind of moved into this house lane more recently. But if we take it back, even before the DJ stuff, have you always been musical? Even as a kid, were you into music? Was there music at home?
Oh, yes, definitely. Nothing but 90s R&B was playing all around me from my dad and my mom. I was into music. I would play the piano. I knew I played the piano pretty well, but then it kind of faded because basketball took over. But I knew how to play the trombone really well. I would make different hip hop beats. I would write poetry and rap over the songs. So it was little stuff I did that I found, intriguing, but I really didn't take it too seriously until I got to LA because during that time I was playing basketball. So that kind of took over everything.
Right. Are you the kind of person where once you kind of focus in on something, everything else fades away a little bit?
Doesn't matter. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, it's always interesting because I think a lot of people who do this kind of thing are similar that way.
Yeah.
But I always wonder where that comes from. And I don't know if that's ever something you've thought about in your own life, but what did your parents do? What were you seeing as a kid? Were you always kind of this way?
That's actually a really good question. Honestly, my parents, they liked music, but it was nothing no one's profession or anything. My dad was, he had his own trucking company and my mother worked for the government doing social work. So I don't know how. I always was an adventurous child too. So I like to venture off and find different things. Maybe that's why I was the way I was, because I really didn't like the normal things everyone was doing. I wanted to do stuff that was kind of crazy and wasn't so easily attainable.
I mean, if your dad's running his own company, I mean, in a way, that kind of entrepreneurship, I could see that.
True.
I could see that being inspiring.
That's very true.
Were you have brothers, sisters, big family, small family?
Two 2 younger sisters.
Okay, so you're the
It's
oldest.
just us 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah, that's also interesting because usually I feel like if there's siblings, it's like it's the youngest sibling or like the younger ones who go off and do something crazy, you know?
Yeah. Oh no, that was me. I knew ever since I was little, I wasn't going to do like a regular thing. I just always knew. I just didn't know what it was.
And am I right that you were born or raised in Cleveland?
Yes. Till I was 16, then I moved.
Okay. So I want to ask you, just because I'm curious, I was born in Minneapolis. I lived in Chicago for a long time. So I love Midwest.
Gotcha.
I love Midwest people. And Cleveland in particular, like it's funny because I was just talking about Cleveland with somebody a couple weeks ago because they were traveling there. And I was trying to explain my experience of Cleveland has always been that it is kind of like the wild card city. Like there's kind of this like chaotic energy there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what that is? Like, how do you talk about Cleveland?
Well, honestly, I only remember it when I was like young and little. So everything was good. Like I didn't see all the bad, especially because my mother kept me like in a little box. So I really didn't get to see much of the drama now that I see as I get older and hear about. But when I was there, it was amazing. I had fun. We'd hang out with my friends. We'd go to parties. We were always going on vacation. So it was fun. But then once I got older and went back, I'm like, yo, this place is not what I thought it was when I was young. Like, this is not it.
Yeah.
Not it. But I guess it's doing better now because I do have some friends now who are like building like their own clubs in Cleveland and doing restaurants, trying to bring like that good vibe to the city that it really never had. So
yeah. And I think
cool to see.
It breeds interesting people too. Like even if you just look at like the artists that we know of who came out of there, you know, like Kid Cudi or Machine Gun Kelly, or even to take
Bone Thugs and Harmony,
to take it back to the 90s R&B tip.
Yeah.
And even like, I don't know if you know, like there's like this local guy, Chip the Ripper, who was popping off.
Yeah, I know
like,
Chip.
Yeah, all of them. It's like really interesting, unique artists who all kind of have that edge in one way or another.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. And then, I mean, I would give that to you too. Like there's the way you produce the music you put out. It's just interesting because I can hear the 90s R&B influences, but then to have that updated and to have you be like new to the game relatively as a house music producer, I don't know. There's a crazy energy to it. Maybe I'm reaching too far to tie it all back into Cleveland, but
oh no, you're good. You're good. No, I definitely feel what you're saying though.
Yeah. It's just I don't know. The places we come from, I always wonder how much that plays into, you know, the art and the music we end up making and being attracted to.
No, I feel like it plays a big part, especially because I know a lot of the stuff I listened to while growing up in Cleveland, I try to incorporate somehow, or the way I dress and somehow is incorporated. It's just little things here and there.
What was the hot style in Cleveland like when you were a teenager? What were people dressing like?
I don't even know. That's the thing. I don't remember because I was so lazy. I would just dress in hoodies and jogging pants every day to school. So I was so lazy. I hate dressing up. And then I went to private school, so they had the clothes picked out for us, a skirt and polo shirt. So
okay.
I can't really remember.
So you didn't even really have to worry about it, yeah.
Yeah, no, but I know it was like street style. There was like urban street style. Anything.
I mean, I was the same. I was a total scrub at that age. There was no way. I mean, I probably thought I looked good, but there are pictures that will tell you otherwise.
Same. I thought I looked good in that moment, but I look back, I'm like, what am I wearing? What am I doing?
So you said you lived there till you were 16?
Yes.
And then what came after that?
My mom and her husband, they got a job for the government working in DC. So we moved to Virginia.
Oh, shit. Okay. I'm in DC right now. Oh,
yeah. I love that. It used to be my stomping grounds.
Okay.
I was there every weekend partying.
Oh, nice. What kind of spots would you go to around here?
I would go to Rose Bar, this place called Opera. There was another place right next to Opera. I forgot what it's called, but it was more like grown up and sexy, elegant, but Yeah, I was always out. Oh, and Griffin, I went to on Sundays.
Okay.
That's bad. I remember all this.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's like when you're like late teens, early 20s, that age, going out. I mean, I remember exactly where I was going. You know, it's like those memories. What were you hearing when you were going out there? Did anything leave an impression on you?
Go-go music for sure.
Yeah.
I fell in love with go-go music. And it was a form of house, a different kind of house that I grew up on. So I really enjoyed go-go music in DC.
Yeah, the go-go's thing is interesting because it's that slow groove, you know?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think when you hear it for the first time, it's hard to like understand what's happening with it, how to find your way into it. But man,
it is. I love Chuck. I think it was Chuck Brown. I think he had passed away recently. But yeah, I was literally amazed and had opened up my mind to so much more when I went to DC. It really did, culture-wise too.
Yeah. I mean, the history here in so many different aspects is really fascinating.
It is.
When you moved out there, like 16, 17, 18, going into like college age kind of thing, were you already pretty heavy with the basketball thing?
I was. I had been playing basketball since I was like 6 years old too. So it was definitely engraved in me. And I was still finishing up high school at that time as well. And then I went into college for like a year. But I had to leave because I tore my ACL for a second time. And I was like, I'm not going to do it for a third. I'm going to have to stop.
Well,
I won't be able to walk.
That's got to be a tough moment, though, for like something that's been such a big part of your life.
Right. No, it was. But then it kind of was a relief because I was like, I didn't know what else to do with my life, but it gave me that push. Be like, all right, let's find something else that's, fun and more intriguing. Because I wasn't really in love with basketball like I used to be.
Oh, yeah.
So it had changed a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, yeah, the levels of seriousness once you get into the college level. And I have to imagine if you're playing for that long and doing that much of it, you were probably thinking about the serious levels of it.
Yeah.
I kind of had a similar thing doing theater stuff when I was in high school. I did theater all the time. I was like, oh, this is just what I'm going to do because it's fun and I'm decent at it. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, these people take this way more seriously.
Way serious. Yeah. It's crazy, especially in college because it's like a job.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not fun anymore.
Right, man. It's real weird. I feel like for me, that was one of the first times where I realized that just because I was good at something didn't necessarily mean that I would enjoy doing it forever, you know?
Right. That's so true.
And for you, like once you hit that, once you had that injury and kind of had to refocus, what did that look like? Were you thinking about music at that time?
No, I was kind of being a little bit more like, I guess, realistic, my parents would so to say, because I was like, all right, well, if I can't do that, I'm going to go into the military, get this military background so I can go work for the CIA once I get out. That was my plan.
Okay, nice.
And yeah.
Was that?
But then once I got to LA, it changed.
Well, I mean, so it's interesting that the military took you to LA because I feel like that doesn't happen to a lot of military people.
It doesn't. And when I was told in boot camp in Chicago, I remember it like yesterday, the person came up to me like, oh, you're going here, this place in California. And something told me something's going to happen. I just didn't know what it was, but literally something was like, something's going to happen.
Wow. So what was that experience? Boot camp, the military, it's not an experience I've had. If we're talking about, basketball being like a job and too serious, I mean, you hear a lot about boot camp being kind of similar to that.
It was honest for me. I felt basketball training was way harder than the military.
Okay.
It was basic stuff. The workouts were basic. I was doing way harder stuff in college. So it was easy for me to adapt to that. And I feel like that was the only hardest part for everyone else was actually working out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were failing because they couldn't work out. So because they couldn't keep up with the workouts. So it was literally easy for me.
Man. And
super easy.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure you had the conditioning and all that.
Yes.
And so what was the LA thing? Was that because you were specializing in a certain area or just random?
No, I I didn't even have a job yet while I was in boot camp because some people had jobs, and then I went undesignated, which means you'll find a job wherever you get to your station.
Okay.
But I just got random. I was the only one in my graduating class that got those orders for that place.
Damn, that's
because everyone
crazy.
else went on ships. And I was so glad I didn't have to go on a ship because that was a no.
Right. So this is the Navy, right? Like that's
the Navy.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild. And to have it be kind of that random thing that's fascinating.
That's why I said something. It was all weird how it all was written out.
I mean, do you buy into the like it was fate, it was meant to be kind of thing?
I do, but in a way I'm like, it's stuff that I would put into the universe. Like I always wanted to do something with music. I just didn't know what it was. So I feel like those thoughts and just being around those types of people who were all trying to chase their dreams of doing something that's out of the norm that people expect you to do, I felt it all had a part in it.
Yeah, that's interesting too. Did you find while you were in boot camp and around people just starting off in the military, I would imagine there's a lot of people who maybe the military isn't their end goal, but it's just kind of, this is what I'm doing right now until I figure out, the stuff I've really been thinking about.
That's true. A lot of people were like that, but majority of them were like, all right, it's easy for me. I'm just going to stick it out.
Yeah.
And I was not one of those. I knew I was going to be one and done.
Man. How long did you stay in the military once you got to LA?
I did my full contract. So I was in the military for 4 years.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a big chunk of time. That's a decent chunk of young life there. What is it like?
Yeah, I know.
What is it like being in the military and being in LA when you're young?
Oh, gosh. I honestly got super lucky because the station I was stationed at, it was brand new. They were still setting up. They really didn't know what to do. We had short working hours. So it was easier for me to go out and do things that I wanted to do because I was out being extras on movies for Netflix with Eddie Murphy, Issa Rae.
Oh, for real?
Then I was partying. Yeah, I was doing everything. So I was like, I'm going to find something that I wanted to be in because I thought film was going to be what I was here for. I mean, it was doing good. I probably could have still did more with it if I just stuck with it. But then music came about and then that took over.
Man, that's wild. So doing, big star movie roles, even as an extra, that must have been an eye-opening experience too, just to see kind of how that world works. And
I had a few. If you look on IMDb, I have a few credits.
Yeah, I should have done that before we started talking.
Yeah, I have a few credits.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you have any interactions there, whether it's with a big star, or just anybody on the set that kind of changed the way you were thinking about what you were doing? Like, was it any kind of learning experience just being around that environment?
Yeah, I was able to meet a friend of mine, actually, Terry. I met him on set a few times, and we worked on different projects. And I think we just got really close because he was getting in the acting world as well. And then he wound up, now he's a director and he's won an Emmy. So it's crazy to see how we all started into where we're at now.
There's something about that too, that energy when everybody's just hungry and grinding.
Yes.
That I don't know. I think it's harder to hold on to that energy once you get any kind of success in a weird way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, I'm the type of person, I'm never satisfied. Like all this is going on, I'm still like, well, let's see how we can do better. Let's see what else we can do more. So I guess it just depends on the person.
Yeah, I think that's true too. I guess for me, it's more just kind of the fun of before anyone gets big or has that big hit and you're all kind of, I don't know. I like the times when it's just potential and it's like, this could turn into anything, but right now it's nothing. And it's kind of just the fun of seeing what's gonna happen.
Yeah. That's so true. It is, because you don't know what's going to happen. So it's funny when things actually are doing good.
Yeah, totally. And everybody has their own path to it and people get there at different times. And I don't know, watching that and being a part of that, I think is part of the fun of doing this whole weird thing.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
And so were you starting to DJ while you were still in the military?
Yes, I think the last 2 years of my contract. Yeah, I bought this DJ recorder thing. I forgot what it was. It was so small. And I would practice in my barracks after work every day for like a week and a half until I felt comfortable with going out in public to DJ for people.
So you're just doing it in your barracks. Like, what did you have any inspirations? Yes. Did you have any goals at that time of like, I want to play this kind of music, or I want to play at this spot?
Yeah, I wanted to play house music because I was like, house music parties I always saw like on TV, and just when I was growing up, they were all like amazing. So I went into DJing, wanted to do house, but I knew I wanted in that industry in LA. But I knew tons of people who did like hip hop and R&B parties, and I love hip hop and R&B. So I just taught myself first with that, and that is the hardest genre you can ever spin. Like, for real. Like house is nothing, so easy. Like so I was like, I can do it in my sleep, but hip hop is literally technical things. You got to be on point about everything,
and the timing is so important there too.
Yes, and so it helped me. It really did help me, like get to, I guess, project so fast house music just with my DJing skills, and then be able to learn how to produce as well. Because I knew what I wanted my music to sound like, and we're still getting there, still find the right sound and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's evolving quickly. I think you can tell just from your last few releases alone. Did you end up going more into the quote unquote open format world at first, just doing like the hip hop parties and all of that, which is its own grind, right?
It wasn't bad at all, because honestly, once the pandemic came about, then I was like, all right, this is my time to be like, all right, I want to do house music.
So you were always kind of focused on that, even while you were doing the hip hop and the open format stuff.
Yes.
Because it's a grind, man. It really is. Like I started off doing open format stuff for years and years too. And I don't know. I think it makes you a better DJ. I think, like you were saying, you kind of get clued into what makes people move on the dance floor, what keeps people engaged. Because especially at a hip hop club, if you play the wrong song at the wrong time, I mean, there's no saving it,
There is no saving it, because you got to wait to that next portion of when you can mix in the next song to come in. So it's very particular.
And did you start to see any kind of little success when you were doing the open format stuff? Like, did you feel like you were building a name or getting some respect locally?
Oh, yeah. I would get booked for certain like private parties. And then I had other people from out of state trying to book me for their hip hop parties as well. Like on Sirius XM with a good friend of mine who is a personal trainer. So he does like personal training for Michael B. Jordan, Khloe Kardashian. So he invited me to come up there, and I went on there and do a guest mix. And like at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I could do something with hip hop, because it's not as easy for DJs in that world to, blow up as it was in dance music. So I found that as me taking the next step into that genre. But then I was like, I still really want to do house music.
Did it get to the point where it was like a sustainable thing? Was music your main thing at a certain point?
No, because I was still in the military too, and still, trying to keep myself afloat. I feel like once I got out of the military, I had more time for myself to really invest into the music.
And that sounds exhausting, being in the military and being like a working DJ.
It was, because especially they were some people in my command were hating too. They're like, well, you need to be here at work. I'm like, we're not doing anything. So I'd rather go do something better with my life than sit here all day.
Oh, man. I never would have guessed that. That's kind of incredible.
For real.
How did making music and producing come into your life?
Well, I knew with house music, if you wanted to, be a successful DJ, you had to have your own songs. And so right after I got out of the military, I went right into music production school. I started working with mentors, doing the courses that they were offering at the school. And just from there, just continue to learn. I'm still learning today.
It's crazy just because, it was Free, the song Free. Was that like your first official single as a house music producer?
Yeah.
And even that song, I mean, it's great. Like you can hear the evolution from that to what you're making now. But even that, I feel like you started off with a very high like house music IQ, if that makes sense. Because I think a lot of people's early productions, and this is not a bad thing, but I think a lot of people's early productions, you can kind of tell they're trying to copy the music that they like. They're trying to, sound like something that they've heard.
Yeah.
But
I was like, no, because what I was hearing wasn't it for me. So I was like, let me create my own. And I'm still trying to find that sound, which I think I'm kind of landing on it now.
That's interesting. So you saw kind of a void that you wanted to fill as far as like, no one's doing this right now, or why isn't anyone making this kind of sound?
Yeah, I just wanted to be me. I didn't want it to sound like so-and-so or, oh, this sounds similar like to this. I wanted to just be me, because what you hear now, they all sound the same to me. Like there's a few songs I'm like, okay, this is actually, pretty dope, but everything sounds the same R&B vocal over and over again. So
yeah,
I just want to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, that the R&B vocal trend, man, I'm done with that. It's so wild. And this is not just house music. This is this is just major labels, I think. But when somebody gets a hit off, the 10,000 copycats that come in like 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Does that business model, does it work? Like there must be a reason people do it, because it seems so corny, but I don't know.
I mean, look at the Beatport top 10. That's all that's there is samples of R&B. And it's just like, what is this?
Yeah. And I mean, I guess people must be buying them and playing them, but I don't know. I feel like from the DJ side of it, it feels like we all kind of know it's corny.
Yeah, but like some are really good.
Yeah.
But there was a discussion on Twitter where people like, it shouldn't be like someone's single. It should be like an edit that you have. Like we shouldn't be doing like a basic instrumental, then slapping the R&B song over it, and then wow, it's so incredible.
Yeah, that's funny you say that too.
Some people like it.
You're right. I mean, it's funny you say that, because that kind of makes me think about the open format DJ thing again, where, when you're an open format DJ, if you make a little edit to play a hip hop song at house tempo, that kind of thing, that's pretty normal. And people do that all the time. And it's not looked at as kind of like, this is my artistic statement, It's kind of just like, this is a fun thing for the party. So maybe it is just the like recontextualizing. Yeah. But I want to talk about like your dance music IQ I think it started off so high. Like, do you ascribe that to anything? Because it sounds like you've been a lifelong lover of house music. Was it just stuff you were hearing when you were going out? Was there a certain point where you were like, let me see like the history of this? Because I hear like the roots of house music in a lot of what you put out, a ton of those 90s influences, like really strongly.
Yes. Definitely, because when I was growing up, I knew of house music. I didn't know too much because I was still too young. But then once I got, today, I went really deep into like the research of where house came from, because I feel a lot of people, especially my friends, don't know where house originated from. And it originates from us. I felt like I had to in order to get a better grasp of what house music was. And so I did that. I went crate digging for hours and hours and hours. And I love doing it. And sometimes it gets bad when I start to crate dig because it's hard for me to get out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I definitely, used a lot of the influences that I learned about early on into my music. And I just want to teach more people like house music is cool. It's not the corny stuff you hear here and there on the radio. It's actually some groovy, soulful stuff that's actually a vibe.
And you're right. I mean, I think with dance music, EDM, whatever you want to call it, getting so huge there was that explosion of like 5-8 years ago, and still to this day, I mean, it's bigger than it's ever been in the States. But, no one wants to do the homework. No one knows the history of it. And like we were just talking about, it's sometimes not the realest tracks that get the biggest,
Yes. That's so true. They don't.
I guess that's like a thing in all music. Like oftentimes the originators kind of get overlooked, or the people don't get their due who like were the real innovators. There's a lot of people in this scene who they might be talented. And again, it probably sounds like I'm talking shit, and I'm really not trying to, but it's like, there's plenty of talented, there's plenty of talented people and people killing it and making good music. But for me, the older I get, the longer I do this, it's more about like, well, why are we doing this? Like, what's the point of all this?
Yeah.
If it's not to,
That's true.
If it's not for the community of it, if it's not for like the ongoing culture of it,
That's why I pride myself on just, being original, not trying to be like anyone else, and just doing stuff that I love.
Well, can we nerd out on the production tip for a second? Like what is writing a song?
Sure.
What does writing a song look like for you these days? Like if you sit down in the studio, do you have a process for it?
Yeah, I'll start with the kick and then a little bit of hi-hats and claps. And then I get into the bass because I love making basses. Like that's probably my thing. I've noticed I love making a good bass. And so then I start from there, get the bass going. Then I start adding things on and then notes, lyrics come to my head. I'll write out the lyrics or sing it on the song and then get it together. But that's basically how it goes. I never really have a set thing of what I want to create. I just go in and see what comes of it.
So but it sounds like it's the groove that comes first. It's like drums, bass first.
Yes. And then I get the groove going with all the other elements.
The vocals too. I mean, was that a weird thing? Did you sing as a kid? Like, where did that come from?
Well, I wrote poetry, so I would rap over the beats that I would make when I was little. So that's where, honestly, that comes from.
I think it makes your music stand out more. Like you said, I think it obviously makes it sound more like you because it literally is you.
Yeah.
I always like it when people just do everything themselves. Not that there's anything wrong with collaboration, but it's like, then you're getting like the most pure form of that person, you know?
Yep. That's so true.
How did you start getting more into the house scene in general? Like once you started making music and, going like harder in that lane, was there like a person or a label who initially noticed what you were doing? Like how did you kind of make inroads into that world?
I think with my agent, because once I got with him, he started putting me literally in the right rooms. That's really all it really did. All he really did was just put me in the right rooms, and I did what I had to do, and also me just going out in LA too, going to different little house parties that friends would invite me to, where it was a house base of it. So I think a little combination of both of those kind of helped me get, more and more into the community.
How did you meet your agent?
I met him at a brunch party that I was DJing in San Diego. I had booked the event for myself, but he was there with his other artist, Vanessa, and I guess they saw me playing, and from there, I literally had a meeting with him the next week after that. And right after that, he had me booked on Day Trip Festival last year.
I love Vanessa. I've had her on this show too. She's great. What do you think? I don't know. You don't have to have an answer to this question, but like, if you were to guess, like, what was it about what you were doing at that time that you think made you stand out the way you did? Because I think that's a rare thing for someone to just see you playing and then just to, it's all happening kind of right away.
I know. And that's it. The universe is crazy. When you say things will happen. But I think just my music selection, I was already well-versed in music by that point too as well, especially with DJing. And I think that just, I don't know, maybe my style, my presence, because he did say I wore his favorite color, orange. So that made me even more special, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a combination of that and the industry just needing, something fresh, a breath of fresh air than the regular stuff that they were getting. I just think it all played a part of it. And I'm dedicating everything I do. I think just my work ethic is really, I don't play about that at all.
That's good. And it sounds like you're kind of a self-starter too. I mean, if you're booking a bunch of shows yourself and reaching out to people yourself, it sounds like you weren't waiting to be noticed, which is, I think, a trap a lot of new artists fall into.
I totally agree with that because I've seen it happening when I was, on my path to where I am now. So I was just making sure I was staying, doing above and beyond so that I could stand out. And
that energy, obviously, I'm sure you already know this, but that's like, you have to have that. Even the biggest names doing this, the super rich, famous people doing this, they are all kind of that way. Like once you start meeting and talking to those people, it's like they all kind of have that, whatever that is. It's not all the same like motivation, but it's that fire that I think just never goes out. It's kind of a crazy thing.
Yes, that is very true. That's why I said in some ways, I really admire Kanye West because literally everything I said I wanted to do and I'm working towards, it's happening. And after I watched this documentary, it definitely just solidified everything for me.
Yeah. That documentary was amazing, man, because you really can see that he's kind of been the same person the whole way through. Like whatever you think of
The whole way through.
yeah, whole way through, which whatever you think of what he's doing now and the crazy stuff he says is that's kind of immaterial to me of just looking at like, this is a singular, unique person and look at what he has accomplished with this kind of mindset. This is kind of last week's news, but I'm still interested in your take on it. With Drake and Beyonce and all that making dance records now, there's been a lot of interesting takes, like some weird takes, even from like, I've seen people in house music being like, we don't want, pop stars coming in and like make it, trying to do our thing, which to me was kind of a bizarre way to look at it. How do you feel? Did you like the records in general?
Yeah, I really liked Drake's record. I thought it was just like a vibe. Like I would listen to this on my vacation in Tulum or somewhere on a beach somewhere. Like that's what the vibe it gave me. It's very house inspired. I think people are thinking when they think of house, like the house that we're constantly DJing. And I just felt like Drake's album was house inspired. But it was a vibe. I totally liked it. I thought it was something different. And also it sheds more light on the community, and more light means better things for us. So I really enjoyed it.
It's like a starter kit for anybody who are fans of theirs that may not know anything about house music. It's, I think, a great intro. To bring it back to you, though, you start making music, things start taking off pretty quickly. You're focusing in on this sound. You were saying that like you feel like you've got it like kind of where you want it now. Do you have a vision for where this goes in the future? Like either whether that's your sound or just what you want to do, like goals in your career, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, right now I'm working on more tunes that are more geared to the underground because I did the commercial stuff, which is, amazing. And I probably will definitely go back to it. But now I really want to get into the underground scene, like with the Martinez
brothers, yeah.
Those parties over Europe, because when I see those parties, I'm like, I need to be over there.
Have you gotten to travel much, like overseas? Have you gotten out of the country at all to play music yet?
I've only been to London for studio sessions, and that was earlier this year. But in September and in November, I'll be in Spain and Australia for tours.
Australia is amazing.
Yeah, I cannot wait.
Is there anything we haven't talked about? Anything else that's on your mind? Anything else you want to let people know about?
Just expect the unexpected. Don't think of like sound-wise. We're going to be experimenting with everything. So no staying in the box with me over here.
For any aspiring artists listening, that's a big key too. Did you see, this is a random thing, but Missy Elliott just was tweeting, I think yesterday or the day before, she was like, here's some random advice for artists making their sophomore album, like making their second album. She's like, that's when you have to experiment the most. That's when you have to not listen to anybody. It's interesting. I didn't think about that, but maybe you're kind of in a similar position where you've had some success, some house records that are doing real well. And maybe people are starting to associate you with a certain sound. Do you feel that way? Is that why you're kind of moving?
Well, no, not yet. I'm just, like you said, I'm starting now. I did that first phase where I had that good chunk of success. Now it's time to, all right, let's introduce a little bit of the next phase that I want to do and then tie them all together eventually at the end. But just slowly introducing people to new things because I don't want to do it too late or too early.
That's smart. It's smart. I mean, you've clearly got a very good head on your shoulders for all of this. I like the way you're talking. It's very organized.
Thank you.
You seem like an organized person.
I am. I'm a stickler about that.
Yeah, I can see that. It's good. That's a good thing. As we're kind of bringing it on home here with all of this, like the travel going crazy, and the success and more eyes on you and expectations, whether they're from you or from somebody else externally. Do you have any ways of like keeping yourself calm, happy, excited to keep doing this as everything keeps getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah, when I come home, I take breaks. I don't want to talk to anyone about anything. I don't want to hang out. I just want to relax in my home, watch movies, and go out to eat. That's literally, I just want to be normal, not be too, because when you're out there on the road, you got to, be talkative. You got to, interact with people because that's just like, I love doing that, meeting with people. But then once I come home, I just want to chill out. Don't want to be bothered.
balance is everything in life, right? But I think, yeah, even in this career, again, that's another very organized in like just logical answer, man. Because that's the thing. It's so tempting. I think it's tempting. Like once you start getting into this life, and you're like, oh, I could go party every night. I could go, like be the big shot every night if I wanted to. And some people do, and I think that's dangerous, man.
Yep, it is. Maybe if I started this in my early 20s, I probably would have been. But now that I'm I'm a little seasoned now, as I like to say. So I know how to keep myself on a good level.
That's part of it too, right? It's like some people get successful at this when they're like 19, 20 years old. And that was not me either. And I think about that. I was like, man, I would have been in trouble.
Yeah, same.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one last question. This is the last question I ask at the end of each one of these episodes. Just looking for a moment from your life, like just a single memory from your life. Could be from when you were a kid, could be from yesterday, anytime. When in that moment, in that memory, music really hit you hard in that moment, really like had a deep impact on you.
I think when I was, getting out of college and transitioning from not playing basketball anymore into trying to find something else to do with my life, I feel like I was really listening to, I think it was Drake at the time too, and some other people. Oh, and this lady named Gole Pele. It's a song called Closer. And that song literally just, hit home for me because it was basically saying getting closer to my dreams. And I felt like, okay, well, now that I stopped playing basketball, maybe I can actually get closer to what I'm actually supposed to be doing.
And that's like another kind of just hint from the universe, right?
Yes, it really was. It really was.
That kind of thinking where it's not necessarily like some magical thing is happening, but it's kind of just noticing what's happening around you and working that into your life and it's just taking inspiration from your own life, which I think is, that's as creatives, that's all we can really do. So that's a beautiful story, man. That's a good lesson for anybody listening.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it really was.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your time. It was nice to talk to you.
Yes, likewise. I'm jealous of you though. You're in DC. I wish I could be in DC.
Yeah, well, you'll be here on tour soon enough.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll be back there again. It's my favorite city ever.
Hopefully one of these days our paths will cross somewhere out there.
Yes.
Have a good one. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Bye.
Bye.